I do a job that I feel that I'm fortunate enough to have and I'm fortunate enough to have the skill set to do it, and working for an organization that allows me to kind of be creative around care for these kids.
I ended up wanting to work in the field because I actually had received services as a youth. I was in foster care and DSS custody. Growing up, I realized that these workers really do make a difference in kids' lives and can completely change your outlook and completely, help you be a functional member of society, which if I didn't have the supports that I had, I don't know that I would be able, to do it.
I feel that one day it could be me that's in their position, and I would like to make sure that someone there to take care of myself.
Males, especially young men who are suffering from mental illness, majority of the time are incarcerated. So here I have the opportunity to kind of perhaps stop that from happening with another young man if I can get him soon enough.
When you do this work and you help change lives, you help them to become contributing members to society, and in turn that just benefits everyone. It's just kind of a win-win situation.
On the salary we make, you're either going to work 2 or 3 jobs, trying to keep up with society.
Right now I'm a direct care worker for Wayside Youth and Family Services. I work with in a residential program with teenage boys, and I also have a full-time job as a PCA for a woman with breast cancer. I also take care of my 2-year-old son. If I could choose, I would just do the direct care work and be able to, support my son and myself on that, but I can't. I do need the 2 full-time jobs.
You really don't get the chance to play with your kids.
I'd just like to know what they would do in order to make our standard of life better, our salary increases and benefits better.
Direct care workers are paid an average of $12 an hour. As governor, how will you ensure these community-based workers who provide state-mandated services receive a sufficient wage? And candidate Stein, we'll have you answer first.
Great, thank you. A really important question, and I think it's been just a terrible tragedy that a just wage for human service workers that was promised many years ago has never been delivered. And my administration will do that and will ensure that we raise those wages to be a fair wage and a living wage. And I would add that a big issue here, of course, is health care and health benefits. And I'm sure they are not overly generous to human service workers. And I think that I'm the one candidate here in the group that actually has a plan for delivering comprehensive, full, affordable health coverage to everyone, whatever job you're in or if you're in between jobs. And I'll just mention that briefly. I am the only candidate that supports a single-payer, universal system of health care that basically saves money by eliminating the massive and wasteful insurance bureaucracy. Because why should our dollars be propping up the red tape and the paper pushing when we've got a lot of care delivered? We know that nationally it's about 35% of our healthcare dollar that's going into that red tape. In the state, it's more like 12 to 15%, but we can bring that down to about 3% overhead. Let's put our dollars into health care, make sure everyone has affordable coverage that you're not paying out of pocket for and dying a death of 100 cuts. We can provide that health care to our workers.
Thank you, Jim. Charlie Baker, how will you ensure that direct care workers receive a sufficient wage?
Well, I was one of the people many moons ago who first started the salary reserve as a way to address this issue back in the 1990s, and it's obviously still an issue today. I guess I'd say 3 or 4 things. The first thing is, I'm not a big fan of the way Health and Human Services is currently organized, and I've been writing and speaking about this since about 2002 when I first wrote a paper about trying to rethink Health and Human Services back then. And I think one of the big problems we face is we chew up and use and lose a lot of money in Health and Human Services in a very complex and almost incomprehensible organizational structure and bureaucracy. And I've made pretty clear that I'm going to simplify that bureaucracy if I win, and I mean it. I think it would be better for everybody in the end, except in many ways, one of the biggest losers under the current system is the direct care workers. And I think those are folks be spending more time worrying about and more time figuring out how to invest in. Because, you know, we lose twice on this one. We lose because those low wage rates means there's a fair amount of turnover in the industry. And turnover actually works against the industry's ability to succeed and perform, because it's relationships in many cases built over a long period of time that translate into trust, that translate into better care delivery. And the second thing I would say with regard to this is it makes it hard for the industry to create the kind of career paths that are necessary to grow the next generation of leaders in the field. So we need to consolidate that operating model and make sure some of that money finds its way into the
Tim, how will you make sure that direct care workers receive a sufficient wage?
Well, first of all, we have to start fighting for them. And we have to put them on the level of teachers, police officers, and make everyone understand they are as important, if not more important, than those professions. And they often come in with the educational standards that those professions not only have, but get paid for. Graduate degrees, undergraduate degrees, and $12 an hour just really doesn't add up. And it never will add up. So we have to work hard to make sure, create a twin bill for direct care workers, or something like that, so that they are rewarded. As Charlie said, and he said it very well, turnover is dangerous, and it hurts us. It costs us more money. I once owned my own small business, and $12 an hour would have been a good wage at Handshakes Cafe. But the big challenge for me was trying to keep people at a small wage, at minimum wage. And that's basically minimum wage. Many of our direct care workers qualify for Section 8 benefits and food stamps, and that's unacceptable. The other thing we have to do in government is one of the things that we've tried to do. We have legislation pending and hopefully soon to pass that will allow direct care workers, allow nonprofits to share in our deferred compensation plan, so that we can start to provide retirement benefits for those people who don't have them, who don't have a 401k. They can take advantage of what we already offer state employees, and it won't cost a dime more than it's costing today. I hope that legislation passes over these next few months, and it's a start to make sure that our direct care workers and social workers are on par with every other public employee in the state government.
Thanks, Tim. I'd like to present a little bit of background to frame this next question.
Governor needs to answer it.
is a part of this solution, which is getting at the rate inequities, and these go back decades, by the way. Many of these rates have been frozen. That's something we worked on many of the people in this room. We're making progress, but I'll tell you that progress, as halting as it is today, is frozen and goes in the opposite direction if we cut taxes right now, as attractive as that may sound on its face.
Very good. Thank you.